my name is Zoe. I'm the Pixie Psychic. No, not that. Ugh. Today we're going to talk about magical interconnection. We are all connected. We talked a little bit about intention, the law of attraction, and we talked about emotion, but now we're going to talk about connections, which is very, very important when it comes to magic. It's such an important concept that you really need to understand. In order for you to use magic, whether it's crafting a spell, whether it's practicing magic of any kind, you need to be able to understand the connections between you and your target. For example, if I'm trying to help you attract a soulmate, then I need to find a connection to you. And then we need to find a connection to your soulmate. So say you're in the same room as me while I do the spell, then I can touch you physically and I'm connecting to you in that moment, right? Or I can touch a belonging of yours, maybe a memento. I can touch a picture of you. It's basically something that represents you. The stronger the connection to you is, the more effective and stronger the spell will be. The more direct, the better. And a lot of people are like, well, how does touching someone help if you're doing the magic? So here's something that might burst your bubble. Magic is contagious. So if I'm magic and magic is contagious, when I touch you physically, then you also are magic. So how does a memento work then? First of all, if you were connected to this object in any way, like if you touched it, if it belonged to you, then you are still connected to it. So if I hold a bracelet that you wore to connect to you in the spell, the fact that you came into contact with it means that it is magic too. The bench you sat on 5 years ago in the park is connected to you. You also have to understand that magic spreads to things that are similar or touching. So if I bless a small amount of water and then I add it to a big cauldron of tap water, then all of the water is going to be magic. It's going to be blessed because they're similar. They're both water and magic is contagious. And it's not just like physical touch, right? It's if I were connected to you by blood, like if you were my ancestor, my relative, then I am connected to you. If we grew up in the same community, then we are connected in some way. There is a connection. People can be connected because of their values and their beliefs, or their age, or their hobbies. So when you're crafting a spell, ask yourself how you are connected to them. So the more connected I am to you in this case, then the stronger the spell will be. We can also be connected by time, like if we share the same birthdays, or even if we both lived in the same house but at different times. Do you have the same zodiac sign? Because basically I can use your zodiac sign to represent you. There are so many correspondences like elements, which way the wind blows, colors, symbols, planets that can be helpful when creating a connection. So there are so many different ways to connect. It's all about strengthening the connections. The more connections, the better. So in spell work, there's something called layering. Layering objects can really help. So say we're attracting your soulmate, and we first need something to represent you, to symbolize you, so we can connect to you, who the spell is for. So I can draw your zodiac sign on top of a picture of you and perform the spell maybe in your front lawn, because that's pretty connected to you, right? And use your favorite bath soap and even your necklace. And then I want to find a connection to your soulmate. What's going to represent your soulmate in the spell, right? So then I can really go into symbols, like I can find candles that represent love, like red candles. I can use very feminine crystals and sigils to represent that person. And it's not just about representing people or targets. It's really about finding the connection between it all. So find a connection to everything. There's also something called imitation magic. It can be a really good idea to imitate a magical goal. For example, if I'm trying to attract two people to each other, I would try to take two, maybe dolls or objects that represent you, and over time, slowly, every day, move you closer and closer together, because you're imitating coming together, right? Or for example, if you want to start fresh, then maybe literally cleansing yourself in a shower while you're doing the spell, or in a bath, a cleansing bath, that might be more productive because you're imitating what you're doing. You're imitating this cleansing behavior. You're freshening up. Or say you're looking for something that is lost and you're doing a spell to find a lost item, then actually using a literal map might actually be a good idea. So it's not about imitating the person or the target necessarily, but also doing motions, using items. So when you're doing imitation magic, you are imitating what you want to achieve to create an even stronger connection. Because if you can't correctly connect, then your spell really lacks direction. When you have this connection, these strong, direct connections, then your magic really knows where to go, where to flow. So many people I know, who are beginners especially, will pick up a book and recite these pre-made spells, but they don't really make their spell their own. They don't tailor it to their needs, and they don't find a connection. So if they're not really connected to it, then it's definitely not going to be as effective. Like, where are you sending that magic? And that is why blood magic is so powerful. Think about it. It's literally using the magic that runs through your veins. And that's why people find it to be so binding and so strong. And that's why to some people it's even scarier. It also has a lot of like bad stigma, like it's associated with really hardcore black magic. It's just a really perfect example of the more direct you are, the more connected it is to the individual or what you're trying to achieve, the more powerful it will be. Some witches like to use it all the time. Some people stay far away from it. And it's scary to some people, that type of power. Or that's why you see in like the Vampire Diaries when they steal a piece of hair from someone and use that in a spell, because that's a perfect example. You're using someone's hair to connect with them, right? You see it in the movies all the time. Or that's why mediums use mementos to connect to the dead. That's why casting an ancestral spell on a burial ground of your ancestors is probably going to be more effective. I also want to talk about emotion, how you can connect with emotion. Emotion is also a very strong way to connect. Using a childhood doll that evokes emotion over like a plush toy that they don't really care as much about might be more effective. When deciding when to perform a spell, it's really important to find connections too. Like on the target's birthday or during the full moon, depending on what type of spell you're doing, different lunar phases might be better. Or during a storm, or during any specific event that you can find a connection to. If you want to help a friend out with her exam, it's probably better to cast a spell during the exam rather than before it or after it. And sometimes spells just happen over time, like leaving a talisman under your pillow every night, or letting a candle die out. And then the where is also very important, because it's important to be connected there too. Performing it in some random field probably isn't going to be as powerful as performing it in the lawn of your target's house or in a field right next to the target's house, right? Assuming that the target is a person or whatever. Please keep in mind that it's very important to respect privacy. Do not break the law. I don't know how many times I've heard of like young beginner magicians going out and breaking the law. They'll trespass or they'll get into all sorts of trouble just for a certain ingredient. Don't do that. This is why connections are so powerful, because you can use anything to connect to someone. It may not be the exact thing that you want, but you can find a way. It's also good to have a clear space, one that you can cleanse of potentially negative energies, where you feel comfortable casting a circle. You can really do it from your own home, but this is just to help you understand connections and how magic works. Find a location that you feel safe in, especially if you're doing this alone. If you are a solitaire practitioner and you're just doing this by yourself, make sure you feel very safe. If you have other fear or doubt going on in your mind, we talked about this a little bit before with intention, then it's not going to work out great for you. So having a really good location is important, and that's why a lot of us prefer to do it in our living room or bedroom or wherever. Make sure we're not disturbed, you know? No distractions. Plus, it's easier to protect your space that way too. Like, your home with, like, you can sage it or smudge it or whatever you want to do. It's also good to connect with nature. When you're working with energy and magic, you're naturally working with a universal source. And being connected to the earth when you're doing a spell is definitely a great idea. So if you can find a place in the outdoors that you don't feel unsafe or anything, then you can try that too. I live in the city. It's a lot harder for me to go out in nature and, you know, be by myself and be discreet, you know? But remember, don't trespass, even if that clearing looks really great over that fence that has electric voltage on it. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't light a fire in a public place unless you're allowed to. Like, just don't do it. It's not worth it. If you're performing moon magic, then it's really good to do it outside or where the moon can easily shine down on you and where you can easily harness its energy. When it comes to group magic, and I haven't talked a lot about group magic, I don't work with a group. I'm very, I do it solo, you know, I'm a solitaire practitioner. So I don't usually work with a coven or any type of group, but there's nothing wrong with working with one. And if you do, it's nice to have a really nice space for all of you to gather or meet when you're performing a ritual or a spell or any type of magic. But then again, group magic can be done at separate locations. If you're doing a very, very large spell, then you can ask practitioners from all over the world even, or maybe just in your neighborhood, to at a certain time all perform the same spell at once. So this can be very powerful, and I'm not an expert in that type of thing. And if you can, try enhancing the vibe. You can try adding candles or lighting incense, especially things that are very relevant to your spell. When you're choosing a time to do it, a lot of the time your target or whatever is going on is going to be connected by a memory. So if you can choose a time that reminds you of that memory, that also works. Say you're performing weather magic, then you might want to wait till it's raining or till it's sunny out to do what you need to do. You can also look into astrology and start using charts to kind of come up with a good timing. Thank you so much for watching. I'm only going to be making one more of these basic videos. I know you guys might be a little tired of them. I myself am actually getting kind of tired of them. I'm making them so you guys have a really good foundation of what you need to know before I get into the fun stuff. So thank you so much for bearing with me. If you stayed this long, bye-bye.